Welcome to Fairy Tale Nights, your gateway to enchanting stories that soothe the soul. Tonight, we bring you the timeless tale of Beauty and the Beast, reimagined as a gentle bedtime story for adults. Set aside the cares of the day as you journey into this calming narrative. Feel the magic unfold as we guide you through Belle's adventure, from her humble life with her family to the mysterious castle and her growing connection with the Beast. This is more than a fairy tale. It's a peaceful escape designed to help you relax and drift into a restful sleep. Close your eyes, unwind, and let the magic of Beauty and the Beast lull you into sweet dreams. Once upon a time, there was a small family living on the edge of a great forest. The family consisted of a father, his two daughters, Belle and Margot, and his son, Henry. They had once been rich and prosperous, but after a series of misfortunes, poor harvests, theft of their trade goods, and a devastating fire in their workshop, they had fallen into hard times. They now lived in a small, dilapidated cottage, far from the city where they had once been held in high regard. The father, an honest and hardworking man named Maurice, desperately tried to salvage something of their former wealth. He remained optimistic, though the burdens of life weighed heavily on his shoulders. His children loved and supported him, but the loss of their status affected them all. Margot and Henry, who had grown accustomed to luxury and comfort, found it difficult to adapt to their new, humble life. Belle, on the other hand, was different. She was always content with little. She loved books, long walks in the forest, and the beauty of nature. Her simple desires and her love for her family made her beloved by everyone who knew her. One day, Maurice received a letter stating that one of his old business partners might still owe him some money. It was a small chance, but Maurice felt he had to try. He decided to go on a journey, hoping to recover the family fortune, or at least earn enough to give his children a better life. The Journey and the Mysterious Castle. Maurice set off on a cold, misty morning. He kissed his children goodbye and promised to return as soon as possible. His daughters begged him to be careful, especially Belle, who was always worried about his health. Henry, the eldest son, tried to remain strong, though he too was concerned. The days passed, and the journey proved more difficult than Maurice had anticipated. The roads were muddy and poorly maintained, and the winter chill cut through his clothes. One evening, as he traveled deep into the forest, he was caught in a fierce snowstorm. He could no longer see the path and became completely lost. His horse, exhausted and trembling from the cold, nearly collapsed in the thick snow. Just when Maurice feared he would have to spend the night in the open air, he saw a large, dark castle looming in the distance. It looked abandoned and mysterious, but there were lights in the windows, as if someone inside was waiting for him. With few other options, Maurice guided his horse toward the castle, hoping to find shelter. To his surprise, the castle gates opened by themselves as he approached. He rode through the garden, where beautiful flowers bloomed despite the harsh winter cold. It felt magical, almost unreal. Maurice knocked on the door, which also opened on its own. Inside, the castle was warm and brightly lit, and a grand feast was laid out on a table in the hall, as if prepared especially for him. Maurice called out for the host, but there was no reply. Still, no one was in sight. He hesitated, but hunger and cold drove him to sit down and partake in the food. It was delicious, and it seemed as though the castle itself welcomed him. After he had eaten, he found a room that appeared to have been prepared just for him, complete with a soft bed. Exhausted, he fell into a deep sleep. The next morning, the castle was still quiet and empty. Maurice felt almost guilty for leaving without permission, but no one had appeared to him. He decided to leave and continue his journey. As he walked through the castle garden, his eye was caught by a magnificent rose bush. The flowers were so bright red and perfect that they looked like something out of a dream. He remembered that Belle had asked him, if possible, to bring her a rose. She loved flowers, and a rose from this magical garden would surely make her happy. Carefully, Maurice plucked one of the roses, but at that moment, something terrible happened. The air began to tremble, and an ominous growl filled the garden. From the shadows of the castle emerged an enormous, fearsome beast. It was a monstrous creature with the body of a bear, the claws of a lion, and the eyes of a wolf. It growled and bared its teeth as it charged toward Maurice. "How dare you steal my roses?" the beast roared. "After everything I have given you, is this how you repay me? By stealing from my garden?" Maurice fell to his knees in fear and begged for mercy. "I'm sorry, noble sir," he cried. "I didn't know the roses were so precious to you. I only picked one for my daughter, Belle. She loves roses, and I wanted to make her happy." The beast stopped growling for a moment and glared at Maurice with fury in his eyes. "You promised your daughter a rose?" he growled. "Then you will bring her to me. Only then will I spare your life. Bring her here, or you will die." Defeated and broken, Maurice returned home, his heart heavy with sorrow and fear. How could he possibly hand over his beloved daughter to this dreadful creature? But Belle, sensing her father's distress, insisted that he tell her the truth. When Maurice explained everything to her, Belle resolved that she would go to the castle. "I cannot let you die over a rose, father," Belle said firmly. "I will go to the castle, and who knows, perhaps the beast is not as cruel as he seems." Life in the castle. And so it happened that Belle surrendered herself to the beast and moved into the castle. Maurice returned home with a heavy heart, while Belle remained behind, brave and curious about her new life. The castle was just as mysterious as it had been when Maurice stayed there. Although no servants were visible, everything seemed to be taken care of for her. Her room was beautifully furnished, with soft beds, a library full of books, and even clothes that fit her perfectly. Every evening, a grand meal was prepared for her, and every day she received new gifts and surprises. But the strangest thing was the beast himself. He was just as terrifying as when she first saw him, but he did not harm her. In fact, he seemed to want to please her in his own way. Still, there was a deep sadness in his eyes, and every evening without fail, he asked her the same question. "Belle, will you marry me?" Belle was shocked the first time he asked. She couldn't imagine that someone with such a frightening appearance could feel love. And although the beast had been kind to her, she didn't feel any love for him. So, every evening, she gently but firmly said, "No, beast, I cannot marry you." The beast never responded to her rejection. Instead, he would run off, angry and hurt, leaving Belle alone in the grand dining hall. This pattern repeated itself every evening, and the longer Belle stayed in the castle, the more she began to doubt her own feelings. She started to feel pity for the beast, and sometimes she wondered if there was more to him than his fearsome appearance. The dreams and the warnings. In her sleep, Belle began to have strange dreams. In those dreams, a fairy appeared to her, a beautiful woman with wings of light and a radiant smile. She spoke in a soft, reassuring tone and told Belle that she had nothing to fear. "Everything will be all right, Belle," the fairy said in every dream. "Trust your heart and listen to the voice of your true feelings. You have the power to save the beast, but you must learn to see him for who he truly is." These dreams brought Belle comfort, though she didn't fully understand what the fairy meant. Still, she felt there was a deeper truth to it, and slowly, her attitude toward the beast began to change. Although she still didn't want to marry him, she started to feel more at ease in his presence, and even began talking with him during meals. She discovered that the beast was intelligent, well-read, and that he spent his days studying old books and works of art. The visit home. After a year in the castle, Belle asked the beast if she could visit her family. She missed them, and although she was living a wonderful life in the castle, she felt guilty for not seeing her father, brother, and sister for so long. To her surprise, the beast agreed, though he seemed visibly saddened. "You may go home for 3 days," he said in a somber tone. "But promise me you will return on time. If you do not come back within the given time, I will die of grief." Belle gave her word, and the beast handed her a magical ring. "Turn the ring when you wish to return," he explained. "It will bring you back to the castle." Belle gratefully accepted the ring and set off for home, relieved that she would finally see her family again. Her family welcomed her with open arms. Her father was relieved to see that Belle was unharmed and doing well. She brought beautiful gifts that the beast had given her and told them all about her time at the castle. However, while her father was happy, her brother Henry and sister Margot were envious. The wealth that Belle seemed to possess had stirred their greed. Henry and Margot, who had long been irritated by their own simple life, devised a cruel plan. They wanted to keep Belle at home longer, hoping that if she didn't return on time, the beast might harm or even devour her. That way, not only would they be rid of her, but they could also benefit from the seemingly endless stream of gifts and riches from the castle. 3 days flew by, and despite her promise, Belle found it difficult to say goodbye. Her brother and sister begged her to stay a few more days. Belle, though worried about the beast, was swayed by their pleas and stayed an extra day. But that night, she had a terrifying dream. In the dream, she saw the beast, weak and dying, in the castle garden. He lay among the beautiful roses, but his eyes were closed and his breathing was barely audible. Belle awoke with a start, her heart pounding in her chest. She realized she had abandoned the beast and that he might truly be dying because of her betrayal. In a panic, she immediately turned the magical ring on her finger and wished to return to the castle. Return to the castle. In the blink of an eye, Belle found herself back at the castle. Everything was quiet, too quiet. The halls seemed deserted, and the entire castle felt cold and empty. She ran to the garden where she had seen the dream, and there, in the middle of the rose bed, lay the beast exactly as she had dreamed. He was motionless and looked exhausted and near death. "Beast," Belle cried, her voice trembling with emotion. She knelt beside him and took his large, hairy hand in hers. "What have I done? I've been so foolish. Please forgive me. I wasn't thinking of you when I stayed longer. I'm so terribly sorry." The beast weakly opened his eyes and looked at her. "Belle," he whispered, "you came back. I thought I had lost you forever." Belle's eyes filled with tears. "No, you haven't lost me," she sobbed. "I realize now how much you mean to me. I always thought I was afraid of you, but in truth, I never understood how much you cared for me. I love you, Beast. I love you just the way you are." At the moment Belle spoke those words, something miraculous happened. A bright light surrounded the beast, so intense that Belle had to close her eyes for a moment. When the light faded and she opened her eyes, the beast was gone. In his place stood a handsome young prince. The prince looked at her with the same eyes as the beast, but his fierce appearance was gone. "Belle," he said softly, "you have broken the curse." Belle stared at him in amazement. "Curse?" she asked. The prince nodded. "Years ago, I was an arrogant prince who cared for no one but myself. A fairy punished me by turning me into a beast. She told me that I would only regain my true form if someone loved me, despite my dreadful appearance. You, Belle, have done that. You saw beyond my appearance and gave me your love." As he said this, the fairy from Belle's dreams appeared. Her smile was warm and kind, just as in Belle's visions. "I was always with you, Belle," said the fairy. "I knew you were the one who could open the prince's heart and break his curse. Your goodness and love have saved him." Belle felt her heart fill with light. Everything she had experienced, all her fears and doubts, had led to this moment. She had come to know the beast, not for how he looked, but for who he was inside. And in that process, she had found true love. A happy ending. After the curse was broken, the castle returned to its original, magnificent state. The magical servants, who had been invisible for years, appeared and resumed their duties. The castle blossomed and became a place full of life and joy once more. The prince asked Belle again to be his wife, and this time she accepted his proposal with a smile and a warm heart. The news of their engagement spread quickly, and Belle's family, was invited to live in the castle. Her father was overjoyed that his daughter had found such a good fate, and even Margot and Henry, who felt deep shame for their earlier behavior, found a way to better their lives. The wedding of Belle and the prince was celebrated with a grand feast at the castle and in the surrounding villages. People from near and far came to see the happy couple and offer their blessings. Belle and the prince lived a long and happy life together, opening the castle to anyone in need of help or shelter. Just as the castle had once welcomed Belle and her father, the fairy continued to watch over them, and although Belle never saw her again in dreams, she knew that her protector was always nearby. She lived in peace, knowing that love, even in the darkest moments, always finds a way to the light. And so they lived happily ever after. This was the fairy tale of Beauty and the Beast. As you drift off to sleep, remember Belle's journey. Her story teaches us that true beauty lies within, and that love, kindness, and patience can transform even the darkest of circumstances into something extraordinary. May her legacy inspire your dreams, filling them with the magic of possibility and the warmth of a heart that sees beyond appearances. If you enjoyed this bedtime story, please consider subscribing to our channel. We would be incredibly grateful for your support, and it helps us continue to bring you more peaceful stories to end your day. Thank you. Sweet dreams and good night.